Welcome to the Fitness Business Podcast, brought to you by Active Management, the world's leading fitness business coaches who in 2015 will help you #grow your business. This is the world's #1 podcast for fitness business owners and managers. We interview real owners and learn what has been working for them to make them so successful. Here's the host of the Fitness Business Podcast, Chantal.
Hello to all of our wonderful listeners out there. It is officially our last show for Podtober, and we're going to finish this month off with a bang. Let me start by saying this to you. If you listen to no other interview this year, listen to this one. It is an absolute game changer. Now, this week's guest is Mike Michalowicz. If you don't recognize the name, it's because he's not from the fitness industry. He's an entrepreneur behind 3 multi-million-dollar companies and is the author of Profit First, The Pumpkin Plan, and The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. He's a former small business columnist for the Wall Street Journal and the former business makeover specialist on MSNBC. Now, these days, Mike travels the world as an entrepreneurial advocate. He is globally recognized as the guy who challenges outdated business beliefs, and he teaches people what to do about it. Now, during today's show, Mike talks to us about his book, Profit First. In the book, he gives details on the cash management system that will ensure any business of any size in any industry, no matter how much debt it carries or how many years it's been operating, will become permanently profitable. That sounds pretty good. Now, during our interview, Mike explains why the traditional accounting formula of sales minus expenses equals profit is counterintuitive to human behavior and a myth that locks you into a never-ending cycle of selling more, yet profiting less. He also explains why the Profit First formula of sales minus profit equals expenses actually forces innovation, supports sustained growth, and skyrockets profits. You are going to hear why Mike is an in-demand speaker all over the world. You're going to hear about the book, the messages and the lessons within it, and you will walk away with actions that you can implement into your business and your life straight away. Okay, if that wasn't enough, we're also going to be announcing the winner of our Podtober prize giveaway. That is a copy of The Membership Economy by Robbie Kelman-Baxter. So make sure you listen out to the end of the show to hear who has won. That's it, guys. Enjoy this week's interview with Mike Michalowicz. Okay, so I am so excited and a little bit nervous, to be honest, to be interviewing Mike Michalowicz today for this week's episode of the Fitness Business Podcast. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Thanks for having me. I am a little intimidating, so you should be nervous.
I feel a little starstruck this morning because I didn't read your book. I listened to your book. And and for all our listeners out there, Mike actually narrates the entire book himself, which was actually really cool because I found it a really nice way to understand the book, to get into it, and I guess to relate to you as the author. So I thought that was awesome that you narrated the book.
Thank you. And that was actually a tip for my readers. When I wrote my first book, I started asking people who should I hire to read it? And the feedback was clear. Don't hire anyone. Read it yourself, because if you have a smooth, feathery voice professional reading your book, they may sound fine, but they lose the intonation. They don't know how to read it because they didn't write it. Mm-hmm. So when I read my own books, I was able to emphasize the stuff I needed to emphasize. And in my most recent book, maybe that's the one you heard, which is Profit First.
Yeah.
In that book, I started riffing. So I'd read my own book and then stop and say, well, let me tell you why I'm saying that. And then go off, of course, from the book, giving new insights. So it kind of became like a bonus to the printed book.
It was. It was really cool. I felt like I was getting these little extra tidbits that I guess the normal readers weren't getting. So it was very cool. And I have to tell you, Mike, and listeners, if you haven't read Profit First yet, you will. After you hear this interview, I know that you will. And without giving too much away, I have to tell you a little story because I would, obviously being the host of a podcast, I love audio mediums. So I listened to your book and I would listen to it as I was walking my dogs around the streets. And one of the early stories that you tell in the book is, of course, about your daughter and the piggy bank. And I'm not going to give away too much because I want the listeners to go and check it out. And I kid you not, and I'm a little bit of a softie, I'm walking my dogs down the middle of a suburban street and tears start coming down my face. As you're telling that story, it was just so moving. And for me personally, who I'm totally admit I'm not a numbers person, it was that first point of connection to the book and to the story where I kind of really got immersed, and then from there on in I was hooked. So I just thought that was a beautiful story. So do you want to start us off, because you do share a lot about family and friends and acquaintances and stuff like that. Mike, give us an idea what kind of initially motivated you to write Profit First.
You know, it's interesting, and I would suspect everyone listening in, the real core reason that you're in the business you are and why I do what I do is actually not to serve our clients. I mean, that's definitely a major part of it, but it's actually to serve ourselves, to discover something about ourselves. I believe that's why we do what we do. And that when you understand that and you find purpose in what you're doing and how it's self-serving, as that may sound selfish, but it's not, it's selfless. In that when you find your purpose in what you do, then you become prolific, that you can become the most impactful. So when I wrote Profit First, I knew that a major part of the reason I was writing this book was so that I can become a master of the process myself. So I could get so steeped in it, so I could understand it so thoroughly that my own financials would be permanently fixed. And as a side benefit, the folks who read it would be able to do the same.
Do you want to maybe explain, for those that haven't read it yet, do you want to give us a bit of an overview about the Profit First formula?
Oh, sure. So, we've been told, I know you have, everyone I meet has been told the traditional formula. And what the traditional formula is sales minus expenses equals profit. So in your business, you have sales, right? That's the revenue you generate from selling whatever products and services you do to your customers. Then you have to subtract expenses. That's the expenses you incur to deliver those sales. And the leftover is profit. The remainder is profit. Now, that formula sounds nice and it logically makes sense, but the formula is absolutely wrong because most businesses are never profitable. There was a study conducted in the U.S. I subsequently continued it on a global level, and the statistic is roughly 84% of small businesses are surviving check by check. So that means the majority of people listening to this show right now, Chantel, the majority of people listening are barely getting by. If they don't get a deposit cash in the next couple of weeks, if they have a payroll to pay, they're not going to have enough money for that. If they don't get a deposit in the next month, they're on the verge of going out of business. And what confounded me is how can so many people have the courage, the intelligence, the chutzpah to build a business, to sell to clients, to deliver the service we deliver, to do all this stuff, but we can't figure out profit. And that's when it struck me that we're not defective. It's not a problem with us, the entrepreneur. The problem is the formula. And here's the absurdity of the sales minus expenses equals profit formula. When profit comes last, it gets forgotten. And that's human nature. What comes last gets forgotten. Think about the last time you were picked for a team. If you're the last person picked, that's the worst person. You don't want to be last. Could you imagine the absurdity of saying, I'm going to start getting really healthy and fit, but I'm going to do it at the very end of the day. It's going to be the last thing I do? No. If you put it first, it gets addressed. What if you decide to put your health last in life? I mean, that's ridiculous. What comes last is treated as a forgotten element. And that's what I believe is happening to profit and why so many businesses are not profitable. It's the last consideration. We look for it at the year end. We call it the bottom line. We actually give it terms to soften the blow of being last. What I suggest in Profit First is put profit first. The new formula is real simple. It's sales minus profit equals expenses. What I mean by that, the next time a deposit comes into your business, literally a deposit comes in today, take a predetermined percentage, 5, 10, 15%, a predetermined profit percentage, take that money out of that deposit, tuck it away, and now the remainder, the leftover, is expenses.
And I should say, Mike, you go into a lot of detail in the book to help people work out the formula and understand the formula and stuff like that. And in actual fact, you encourage business owners to really take an honest look at their business numbers, don't you? And in the book itself, you give examples, and one particular one, which I remember, where the outcome can be quite confronting to people. So, I
call it the ice bucket challenge. Did that meme hit Australia?
Yes. Oh, yes. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. So all this global phenomena where people are, in their skivvies, taking a bucket of ice water, pouring over their head and shivering, and they're doing it for this fundraiser.
Yeah.
A great viral meme. Well, when you do your first what I call profit assessment or instant assessment is actually what I call in the book. It's like that ice bucket challenge. Because what I did is I studied about 1,000, I surveyed 1,000 of the most fiscally elite or healthy companies in the globe and identified the percentages they were running at. And these are small businesses that do less than $250,000 in revenue, up to bigger small businesses that can do up to $50 million in revenue, and everyone in between. And when I studied these companies, I found out what kind of profits they were throwing off, what kind of money the owners of the business were making, what kind of taxes they had to pay, and how they were reserving for it. And what's fascinating is I compiled this thing I call TAPS, target allocation percentages, meaning if you want your business to be fiscally elite, these are the numbers you should target to allocate to these different purposes: your pay, your taxes, your profit, and your operating expenses. And when people see these TAPs, these numbers I've identified, they compare their numbers, I call this the ice bucket challenge. Because these companies run this and they say, well, I've never had a profit before. I'm at 0% is my profit historically. And they look at their fiscally healthy competitors and they say, wow, these companies are taking 25% profit. The owner's making 30%. Are you saying, Mike, a company that does, say, $500,000 in revenue, the owner is taking a benefit in pay and in profit of over $250,000? That's not even possible. That's crazy. It's not crazy. It is possible. These other companies are doing it. You can do it too. But the first moment you see that, it's the ice bucket challenge. It'll shiver you to your bones.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I guess, let's say there's, for some of our business owners out there who perhaps go through this process and maybe find themselves in that situation where they are quite overwhelmed with the truth about their numbers. What advice would you give to them? Like, what is that first step that they should take to start getting back on track?
Ironically, it comes from your industry, from the fitness industry. There was a study conducted and reported in a book called Switch. It's a fabulous book by Dan and Chip Heath, they're brothers. And they ran a study on human behavior and how do you change things. If you want to change the way you're doing something, how do you make a change in yourself? And there's been this principle of always raising the bar. I'm sure you're very familiar with it. If you want to start working out and you haven't exercised before, you got to turn up the heat. You got to work out 5 days a week. There's these principles of raising the bar, work out harder. But what was phenomenal, or I shouldn't say phenomenal, fascinating, the results were phenomenal about this study. What was fascinating is they found that people are more successful when we lower the bar. So, for example, someone that's never works out, the researchers would ask this person, what do you usually do? And they say, I watch television. They'd say, well, while you watch television next time, would you be willing to stand while you watch television? Well, you're lowering the bar so far, it's so easy to comply that people would say, yeah, sure, I'll stand while watching television. After doing this for a month, the researcher would go back and say, were you successful? And of course, it's so easy. They said yes. Then the researcher would say, would you be willing to walk in place while you watch television? Again, a small request, easy to comply, people do it. A month later, are you willing to jog in place? Then jogging in place turns into jog around the block, turns into a marathon 6 months later, where most people think they need to run a marathon the first day. It's too painful, they fail. That's a little bit of a long analogy, but you can do the same thing with your profitability. Don't start at the fiscally elite. Don't run the marathon and run 15 or 20% profits. If you've never been profitable, starting today, if you get $100 in your account, just take 1%. $1, put it into a profit account, tuck it away. Now run your business off $99. Anyone can do that. I mean, if you can run off $100, you can run your business off $99. There's no excuse. But you've started the habit now of accumulating profit. That will give you momentum. 90 days from now, we'll start jogging in place and we'll move that to 2%. Another 90 days, 180 days from now, we'll move it to the jog around the block equivalent, move it to 3 or 4%. And you inch forward. That's how you do it successfully.
I love that, Mike. And I've got a question for you later on that kind of pertains to that you just talked about, because there was an action that I took straight off the back of reading your book, which is along those lines. So we'll come back to that later. Before we do, now you have a fantastic analogy, which I know a lot of our listeners will relate to. You talk about dieting and plate size. Very, very relevant for us. Now, can you explain how those 4 core principles of weight loss are the same as the foundation for business health?
Yeah, isn't that so fascinating?
Amazing.
That's what it blew me away, that fitness ties into fiscal fitness.
Yeah.
So here's what I discovered in the fitness industry as I was studying what you do. One of the most effective and important mechanisms to weight control is not changing your diet, surprisingly. The fads like Atkins diet, the great food diet, whatever the diet is. While all those diets are effective and work, compliance is the hard part. It's hard for people to stick with that. Try staying on the Atkins diet for the rest of your life. It's easy to do it maybe for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, maybe even a month or two. But at a certain point, it becomes difficult to stay that regimen. So there was another study conducted, and they said, well, what's changed? Why were people in past generations thinner? And the one commonality was the size of our plates have changed. Back in the 1700s, that's here in the U.S., that's George Washington's day, a plate was literally the size of a dessert plate today, half the size of a serving plate. And what happens is people's propensities to fill up their plate with their food, and as our moms always say, clean up what's on your plate. So we fill up our plate, we clean up what's on it. That's our natural habit. By reducing the size of the plates, we start putting guardrails around our behavior. We don't need to change anymore. We actually behave the same way, fill up and consume. But by changing the plate size, we now consume less calories, less weight gain. So let me translate that to physical fitness. Most of us have one bank account, one big old bank account. All your deposits go in there, you pay all your bills from there. One massive plate. We just consume it all. So money goes in, we consume it all. We see reasons and ways to spend it. Here's the simple modification. Set up multiple small plates. I suggest 5 accounts. An income account, that's actually like a serving tray where all your money comes from. Deposits go in there. The 4 other plates are profit, owner's pay, tax, and operating expenses. Now, when money comes into that income account, you disperse it based upon predetermined percentages. I talk about in the book. We're touching on it here on this podcast. But you just pick predetermined percentages and allocate the money out. Now that money is on all these different small plates. You look at your profit plate, you have 5% or 10% set aside there. You look at your owner's pay, you have 20% set aside there. Taxes, you may have 15% set aside. Taxes to pay your personal income taxes and your corporate, which can get pretty lofty when you include your personal taxes. But now the interesting thing is the operating expenses isn't that $1,000 deposit or whatever you put in there. It's only 30 or 40% of it. You don't have $1,000 to run your business. You have 400. You are now working off a smaller plate. And as the principle of the plates show, is when you have a smaller plate, you will still have enough to eat. You'll just find a new way to eat, a new way to behave. It just puts guardrails around your natural habits. So that's the first one. The other 4 principles, and I'll tear through them, is vegetables first. We know this in the fitness industry. If you take your vegetables first, you get your nutrients and vitamins you need, and it actually controls your appetite a little bit, suppresses it, so you don't overconsume on the meat and potatoes, if you will. Well, in the profit first system, what vegetables first is this allocation. Historically, we dug right into the meat and potatoes. Money goes into our main account. We look at the bills we have to pay, and we pay our bills. Meat and potatoes. What profit first teaches us, money goes into an income account. The next step is to take our vegetables, allocate the money out for its different purposes. Then, from the operating expenses, pay your meat and potato bills, if you will. And from profit, that's where you reward yourself for owning a business. Owner's pay supports your lifestyle. Tax takes care of your tax responsibilities. Third principle, remove temptation. For me, chocodiles, thank God they don't even make this stuff anymore. It is like, it's my nemesis. It's a Twinkie meets chocolate. It's like heaven. If they're my house, Chantal, I'm going to eat like hundreds of them. I'm done.
We don't have those over here, Mike. So I'm kind of imagining what a chocodile is.
It's heaven. You would swim the ocean to get here.
Wow.
If you knew how delectable these things were. Well, they've actually discontinued them, thank God. So they're no longer.
I missed my chance.
Here. Yeah. But, we all have it. It could be Twizzlers. It could be a soda. Whatever that little treat is, willpower only lasts so long. Willpower is like a muscle. It fatigues. You can ramp it up for a period of time, but at a certain point, willpower won't stand out. It won't work anymore. But if it's not available in the first place, you'll never consume it. Hide those chocodiles away from me. Don't even have them in my house. I can't eat them. In business, when we have that profit allocation and that day comes where we don't have enough money to pay bills, it becomes very tempting to stick our hand in the cookie jar of the profit. So instead, move the profit account over and your tax reserves over to another bank, out of sight, out of mind, where it's very hard to access it. Now, when you don't have enough money to pay your bills, you can't, quote unquote, borrow from yourself, really steal from yourself. And more importantly, when you can't pay your bills, that is your business yelling at you, shaking you, saying, you're not in a position to afford these bills. Change the way you're operating to work within the confines of what money is available for operating expenses. Remove the temptation. The final thing, I know this is a little long, but the final thing is the frequency. Most people in the health industry know this. We eat actually too infrequently. We have 2 or 3 big meals a day where we overeat because we're hungry. We find that 5 or 6 small meals a day actually prevents us from going for those dips and dives, the peaks and valleys of hunger, and therefore we don't overeat. We actually take in less calories, and you're more controlled in the way you eat when you eat more frequently. In business, we're often reactive eaters. We see deposits come in, we blow the money. There's no money, we panic, we try to make sales. Very reactive. It's a peaks and valleys, starvation, hunger mode, and overstuffed mode. So instead, we want to average that out. And I find that if we get into a rhythm, usually twice a month, if we allow money to accumulate in that income account we set up, then partway through the month, I usually recommend the 10th of the month, we allocate the money that's in the income account to the different accounts we've set up, those 4 accounts. Then the income account goes to 0, starts accumulating again to the next period in the month. I recommend the 25th, and we allocate. We keep doing this rhythm, 10th and 25th, and it brings our business to this normal mode where we're no longer in this reactionary peaks and valleys mode, and we're much more reasonable with the way we manage our money, and we get a much better sense for our cash flow. We understand how money's flowing in and out of our business much better than being reactionary.
I absolutely loved that advice that you gave in the book, Mike. And I have to tell you, that was one of the most immediate actions that I took away from the book. Was I literally kind of, put it on pause and went and implemented the 10th and 25th rhythm. That was one of the things that I've now brought into my life and my business. And also that splitting the accounts. So the minute that the money hits the account, it now goes into separate accounts. And I just find that so much easier for myself. And that's both business and personal. I found that was really, really effective to do. So it's a really great immediate action that people can take away from the book, no matter what size business they're running. Now, Mike, Profit First is well and truly packed with so many great pieces of advice. There is so much in there. Rather than trying to do absolutely everything at once, what is, say, the very first action that you suggest people take to ensure that they're really, you call it a money-making machine, that they're building that money-making machine? What's kind of step one?
Well, step one is kind of what you're suggesting. Step one is do not try to do this all at once, because that's like taking a frozen beer mug out of the freezer and throwing it into a hot oven. Mm-hmm. It shatters. It contorts. It's too fast and too abrupt of a change. And sadly, there's no such thing as a perfect system, and that's where Profit First falls apart. We get people that are very zealous and excited about this. They start it. They set up all these accounts. They try to take 50% profit. And they try to do all these amazing things. And the next day, the panic ensues and the business is crumbling. So don't start off abruptly. Instead, start off softly. It goes back to that lower the bar principle, marching in place. I suggest people that want to implement Profit First take one step. And by the way, there's no excuse not to do it right now. Like literally, you could just pause this podcast for 10 minutes and accomplish this first step. And in working out, when's the right time to start working out? When did now not become the right time? Like, if you intend to do something, don't wait 6 months from now or a week from now. It fades out of the back of our mind. Start today. Start now, but start small. So here's what you do. Pause the podcast. You call your bank and say, I want to set up one additional account, savings account. Call it Profit. Nickname it Profit. Then allocate 1% to it. So as money comes in, you simply, on a periodic basis, allocate every time a deposit comes in, you allocate 1% of that money into this Profit account. Let it start accumulating. What happens is fascinating. You will not get rich this way. You won't make a money machine overnight by simply setting aside 1%. But what will happen overnight is a new level of confidence in how you manage money. You'll start seeing that you now have control over money. It doesn't control you. Then in a short order, you can start implementing the rest of this system.
I love that, Mike. Let's finish up, because you've already given us a huge amount of time and I'm so grateful for it. Let's finish up. I would love to know if you could summarize your top 3 pieces of advice. Obviously, it'd be great if it was specific for fitness owners, but for business owners, what would be your top 3 pieces of advice?
Yeah, so top piece of advice for fitness owners, I guess it's true for any business owner, but realize this is setting a vision for your business that you're going to reverse engineer. Once you set your profit percentage, the profit goal you're going to set for your business, you'll actually find and reverse engineer your way to get there. This is the same as setting a fitness goal. I want to lose 10 pounds and I want to be able to do 50 push-ups. Whatever those goals are, you don't start there, but you set that vision, you rewind. Well, once you set your profit goal and you start allocating these percentages, it forces you to reverse engineer your way to get there. You'll look at your business and say, this isn't working, that is working, this isn't working, that is working, and start being much more selective of what you do. So step one is just simply a realization. Set a profit goal, and the rest of it starts coming in alignment. Step two is leverage what's working and stop doing what's not. It's really that simple. Look at your business's history, especially over the last 90 days. What have you done that's brought results? Have you done some specific marketing that's brought in more members or more clients? Maybe that's something you want to amplify. I suggest it is. Have you done marketing that's done nothing for you? It's cost you money and there's no results. Stop doing it. It's that simple. And look at every element of your business. Determine what's working, what's not. The old Pareto principle will come into play, and that's the 80-20 rule, where 20% of the things you do yield 80% of your benefit. So when you look at things that are working and not working, the majority of things actually aren't working. So stop those and then find the things that are working, amplify those, and you'll find that is the most profitable way to grow a business very rapidly. And then the third and final tip is be selective of your clients. This is probably the most unexpected profit principle that's out there. Not all clients are created equal. Not every client is right. They're not all good. Sort your clients out. Look at the ones that are the most profitable for you, the ones that you love doing business with, that pay you on time, pay you a premium, and that you just love overall. Those are the clients you should pay your attention on. And then if you have the courage, the low-lying customers, the ones that you can't stand doing business with, they're never satisfied, they ask for refunds, you got to redo your work over and over again. Those clients, have the courage to fire them. There was a fascinating study that was done, and the results of the study blew my mind. The top 20% of clients yield, when it comes to revenue, around 150% of the revenue of any business. That means the small fraction of clients are generating your revenue plus. And if you think about it mathematically, how can you generate more than your profit from clients? It's because this other part of the study that blew my mind away. The lowest 10% of your clients usually result in a 50% loss in profits. That means your lowest clients are costing you business and your best clients are covering for them. Have the courage to get rid of your weakest clients and automatically your profits get boosted.
And you also cover that in the book, Mike. You talk and give people advice on how they can tackle that, how they can handle that. And it's a really interesting chapter of the book as well. So, look, I just want to say thank you so much, Mike, for coming on the show today. I know our listeners will get so much out of hearing you speak. To all of our listeners out there, it is time for you to run out and buy this book, Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. And I should also mention, you've also written a couple of other books, The Pumpkin Plan and The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. They were prior to Profit First. Profit First, when did you release this book? Just this year, was it?
Profit First is, brand new.
Just this year.
Last year.
Fantastic. Mike, look, thank you once again so much for your time today. We're really grateful.
The Fitness Business Podcast is very appreciative of our podcast partners. Here's a quick word from one of our partners.
The number one challenge fitness business owners of any sized fitness business anywhere in the world is lead generation. So would you like a monthly lead generation tool that you can use immediately? What about a marketing or advertising piece that can be edited by you very easily and then sent to your printers in less than 15 minutes? No matter the size of your business, you always need new members and guerrilla marketing. Reactivation marketing and retention activities will help generate new leads. But often we stare at a blank piece of paper trying to work out an idea. Active Management have a monthly template that you can purchase and turn your fitness business into a marketing machine. Each template can be fully edited by you with your logo, business details, and even your own call to action. It is super simple and available now at www.activemgmt.com.au. All you need to do is click on products. And as a listener of the Fitness Business Podcast, for the investment of 2 templates, you can actually receive a whole year of templates. All you need to do is become a member of Active Management. And you don't just receive 1 or 2 templates, you'll receive a template every month for 12 months, plus social media images, management briefing white papers, ongoing education opportunities, and loads more. In fact, over $4,500 worth of resources to help grow your business. You can join now for less than $250 and you'll receive immediate access to your marketing templates. Just go to www.activemgmt.com.au right now and click on the blue button in the middle of your screen that says you can be a member now, and then follow the 3 easy steps to becoming a member and growing your business. As promised at the start of the show, it is time to announce the winner of our Podtober giveaway. And it is a copy of The Membership Economy written by Robbie Kilman-Baxter. Drumroll, please, Harper. And the winner is Denise Dunn from DD's Fitness and Personal Training. Congratulations, Denise. We're going to contact you shortly to organise the delivery of your prize. Thank you so much to everyone that entered the draw throughout Podtober. Now, don't forget to listen into next week's show to hear all about our November giveaway.
It's time for the Fitness Business Podcast Wrap.
Given today's guest, Mike Michalowicz, suggested that you pause the podcast to take some immediate actions, I'm really hoping that you've come back to listen to the show wrap for today. So here are my favourite takeaways. Mike reminded us that when profit comes last, it often gets forgotten. Therefore, his formula of sales minus profit equals expenses supports the business growth that we're all striving for. He told us to stop what's not working and start focusing on what is working and amplify that. He said to be selective of your clients. Not all clients are created equal, so look at the ones that are your best and focus on them. If you've got the courage to get rid of your weakest clients, your profits will be automatically boosted. He also gave us that immediate action to set up your bank accounts. Do you remember the small plates analogy? There is actually a full rundown of this particular action on page 39 of his book, Profit First. So make sure you check it out and you can take the action straight away. Last but not least, I absolutely love this quote from Mike, and I think it's a great one to finish on. He said, if you intend to do something, don't wait 6 months from now or a week from now. It fades out of our mind. Start today, start now, but start small. I want to say thank you so much to all of you for joining me for today's show. I hope you enjoyed the interview and information as much as I enjoyed recording it. As per usual, if you've got any suggestions, comments or feedback about the show, email me at chantal@activemgmt.com.au. That's it for today, guys. Next week, make sure you tune in when I chat to fitness industry guru Tim Keatley as he shares his experience and tips on motivating a PT team, KPIs that all PTs should be tracking, and how to really grow your personal training business. I want to wish you all a fantastic week ahead, and remember, what you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others.
You have been listening to the world's #1 podcast called the Fitness Business Podcast, brought to you by Active Management. We are dedicated to helping your fitness business #grow in 2015. Check out www.activemgmt.com.au for resources, tools, and more to help you. And by far, the best value for you is to become a member. So join today at www.activemgmt.com.au.